All right, let's dive right into this explainer. We usually think of history as this endless, overwhelming river of events. But what happens if we drop a bucket into that river and pull out just one specific date? By looking at August 17th across the centuries, we're going to trace the entire timeline of human ages, from the brutal conquests of early empires all the way up to the modern era of spaceflight and global conflict.
I mean, think about this for just a second. What on earth connects a fleeing Byzantine emperor running for his life in a mountain pass to American swimmer Michael Phelps touching the wall to win a record-breaking 8th Olympic gold medal? On the surface, absolutely nothing, right? Unless the emperor had a really good butterfly stroke. But in the massive filing cabinet of human history, they share the exact same date.
It is absolutely wild to see the sheer contrast of the human experience here. Back on August 17, 986 AD, survival literally meant outrunning a hostile Bulgarian army. Fast forward a little over 1,000 years to August 17, 2008, and human achievement is being measured in fractions of a second in a swimming pool in Beijing. It brilliantly illustrates just how much our priorities and our struggles have evolved.
So, here is our time machine itinerary for today. First, pre-1600, kings and conquerors. Second, 1601 to 1900, industry and revolution. Third, 1901 to present, the modern age. And finally, legacies and final thoughts.
Kicking things off with Section 1, pre-1600, kings and conquerors. This timeline really grounds us in the early ages. The fate of nations wasn't being decided in boardrooms back then. It was decided by brutal, up-close conquests and sweeping royal decrees. We're talking the Battle of the Gates of Trajan in 986, the English defeating the French at the Battle of Verneuil during the 100 Years' War in 1424, and a massive societal upheaval in Scotland in 1560.
Let's actually zoom in on that first one for a second. Try to imagine the sheer panic on August 17, 986. The Byzantine Emperor Basil II is literally one of the most powerful men in the world, yet his forces are just absolutely crushed by the Bulgarians under Samuel and Aron. Basil barely escapes with his life through the Gates of Trajan. It's a stark reminder that in the ancient world, absolute power could just vanish in a single afternoon on the battlefield.
Now, by the time we hit 1560, the battlefields start to shift, right? It's not just about territory anymore, it's about faith. On August 17th of that year, Scotland systematically overturns its entire religious structure in one fell swoop. The Catholic Church is officially overthrown, and Protestantism is established as the national religion. An entire nation's spiritual compass was completely reset on this one day. And that brings up this incredible duality in the 1580s. Check out what's happening simultaneously on August 17, 1585. Over in Europe, the brutal siege of Antwerp ends with Spanish forces capturing the city. Protestants are ordered to leave, and more than 50,000 people flee for their lives. But on that exact same day, all the way across the Atlantic, the first hopeful group of English colonists sent by Sir Walter Raleigh lands in the New World to create the Roanoke Colony. One world is collapsing, while another is just starting to be built.
Moving right along to Section 2, 1601 to 1900, Industry and Revolution.
Our next anchor on the timeline shows the pace of life really starting to accelerate. We see military sieges giving way to commercial steamboats, and modern government taking shape. Though, as you'll see, we are still constantly reminded that we're at the absolute mercy of the natural world. Because the crucial point here is that no matter how much our societies were advancing, nature was still in charge. This staggering number, 8,000, represents the estimated lives lost on August 17, 1668, when a massive magnitude 8.0 earthquake struck northern Anatolia in the Ottoman Empire. Just like that, the Earth simply reclaimed its dominance over human ambition.
But as we rebuild and push forward, notice the crazy contrast here. On August 17, 1717, we're still fighting these old world wars. Prince Eugene of Savoy captures Belgrade from the Ottomans after a month-long siege. But less than a century later, August 17, 1807, the sound of the era completely changes. Robert Fulton's North River steamboat leaves New York City for Albany. That is the inauguration of the first commercial steamboat service in the world. We literally shift from the archaic sieges of empires to the mechanical, rhythmic hum of industry.
And well, with industry comes administration. On August 17, 1836, the British Parliament accepts the official registration of births, marriages, and deaths.
Now, I know that might sound like mundane paperwork to us today, but it was a real game changer for civilization. It's the exact moment everyday individuals were finally permanently recorded in the official archives of history, instead of just those kings and conquerors we were talking about earlier.
All right, on to Section 3, 1901 to present, the modern age.
From the muddy trenches of World War I to the very edges of our atmosphere, this era is entirely defined by extreme ambition, rapid technological advancement, and honestly, global chaos. We're looking at early WWI battles, top-level WWI conferences, space exploration, and even the first balloon to successfully cross the Atlantic.
To really grasp how dense and interconnected history becomes in this era, we just need to look at a single day during World War II. August 17, 1943. Massive, world-altering events are happening all at once. The U.S. 8th Air Force suffers devastating losses of 60 bombers in Germany. Down south, Allied forces officially conquer Sicily. Over in Canada, the First Quebec Conference kicks off between Churchill, Roosevelt, and King. Meanwhile, the Royal Air Force launches Operation Hydra against Germany's V-weapon program. The sheer volume of global coordination and conflict on this one single day is just staggering.
And then, exactly 2 years later, August 17, 1945, the world is radically reshaping itself once again in the ashes of that war. In Southeast Asia, Indonesia proclaims its independence from the Dutch Empire. In China, Puyi formally renounces the imperial throne of Manchukuo, entirely dissolving a state. And over in England, a piece of legendary literature is born as George Orwell publishes his seminal masterpiece, Animal Farm. I mean, empires are falling, nations are rising, and culture is shifting, all on the exact same square on the calendar.
Notice how this marks a shift where our species starts looking upward. August 17, 1958, Pioneer 0, America's first attempt to send a spacecraft into lunar orbit, launches, and, well, it fails. Actually, scratch that. It wasn't just a failure. That failure is profoundly beautiful, because it was one of the very first times humanity actively reached past our own planet. We weren't just fighting over borders on Earth anymore, we were aiming for the moon. Yet, despite all those incredible technological leaps into the cosmos, nature humbles us again. Fast forward to August 17, 1999. This devastating number, 17,118, was the tragic minimum death toll of the magnitude 7.6 Izmit earthquake in Turkey. It's a sobering parallel to that Anatolia earthquake we saw back in 1668, right? It reminds us that even in our modern, highly technological age, the ground beneath our feet still completely dictates our fragile existence.
Which brings us to Section 4, Legacies and Final Thoughts, the human element. Because history isn't just dates, is it? It's people. Every August 17th, powerful figures enter the world and exit it, constantly turning the gears of this historical machine. We see the births of royalty, like William IX in 1153 and Richard of Shrewsbury in 1473. We also see violent, sudden ends that completely change political landscapes, like the assassination of Bolshevik leader Mozi Uritsky in 1918, or the death of Pakistani President Mohammad Zia-ul-Haq in a plane crash in 1988. People arrive, they shape the world, and they leave, all anchored to the same rotation of the Earth.
So when we take a step back and look at our entire journey, from a fleeing emperor in 986 to humanity's first reach for the moon in 1958, this single date perfectly reflects the relentless, breathtaking pace of our evolution. When we stack these events up side by side, we aren't just looking at random trivia. We are looking at a cross-section of the human spirit, our capacity for war, for rebuilding, for art, and for exploration.
We've seen empires rise and fall on this exact date. We've seen nature unleash its fury, and we've seen ordinary people finally get recognized in the ledgers of history. Every single day is a placeholder for something monumental. Which leaves us with one final, inspiring thought to carry forward. As you look at the calendar today, whatever the date might be, what history are you going to make today?